So today we're going to be talking about help for codependency and some of the things that you want to think about if you are realizing that you are struggling with codependency symptoms. So codependency is tied to putting the needs of other people before your own. It's tied to living in one-way relationships. It's tied to feeling not good enough. It's tied to abandonment. It's tied to guilt, it's tied to shame, it's tied to childhood family issues that are unresolved. It's tied to a pattern of behavior that causes the person with codependency to negate themselves. If you're somebody who's always putting someone else's needs above your own, if you're somebody who becomes what other people want you to be, so you're dating someone and they like hockey, now suddenly you like hockey. Or if you're dating someone and they love football, suddenly you like football. Or, you're somebody who doesn't know what kind of music you like, and suddenly you're listening to rap music because this new person or this new friend in your life likes rap music. This signifies this idea that you lack a sense of self. You lack knowing who you are. So there's an identity issue that needs to be addressed. The first step in help for codependency is recognizing that you have a problem, recognizing that your relationships tend to be one way, recognizing that you end up in relationships in which you feel defeated. Sometimes you are somebody who keeps attracting takers, not necessarily all narcissistic people, but you tend to attract people who exploit you and exploit your kindness. People who, just trample over your empathy and will take advantage of you. And this happens because you lack a sense of self and you lack the ability to set healthy boundaries. Codependency is rooted in denial. A lot of people who have codependency are in denial. They don't even know that they have codependency. Codependency is not recognized by the DSM. And so you might go into a therapist's office saying that I think I'm codependent, but you might be getting treated for something else. Maybe you will present as having anxiety or abandonment trauma, or maybe you're suffering from some type of psychological abuse due to the abuse of a narcissistic partner or somebody who's manipulative and abusive. And so you might find yourself complaining about those things inside a therapy session, which is fine. But it's really important to recognize if you have codependency, because there are definite things that you can do to help you heal from codependency by acknowledging that this is actually the way you're showing up inside relationship dynamics. So when you're in therapy for codependency with a licensed professional, you should be working on self-esteem. You should be working on resolving past abandonment issues. You should be working on setting boundaries. You should be working on building your self-confidence. If there is anxiety, you should be working, and dealing with any anxiety, any scary thoughts that you have, and any limiting behavior or beliefs that have you believing that you're not good enough and you are unworthy. You're also going to have to work on dealing with people that you are in relationships with that like you just the way you are, which is nice and codependent. Because when you stop being codependent, when you look for help for codependency, not everybody is going to be happy with that, right? Because if you're codependent, then you're taking care of other people and you're not setting boundaries, which means that you may have people in your life that like you taking care of them. And so when you start going into treatment, or you go into a treatment facility, or you start working with a life coach, or if you start just working on yourself, and you are in a relationship with somebody and it's an enmeshed relationship and this person is threatened by your new autonomy or your personal growth, they're not going to be happy, and they could sabotage your efforts at helping yourself heal from codependency. Lots of us who struggle with codependency are also struggling with depression, and we're struggling with anxiety. So it's really important that when we go seek help, that these ideas be addressed. And so again, in order to address codependency correctly, we have to face in ourselves the truth. And so if our relationships are not healthy, if we are not healthy, if we have anxiety, and if we're suffering from depression, and if we suffer from CPTSD, and if our parents are alcoholics, and if our parents are narcissistic, if we grew up feeling invisible, blah, 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 blah. This all has to be brought to the surface in order for a professional to help us heal from codependency. The more you know about codependency, the more you understand it, the more you understand the root causes of codependency, the better you are an advocate for yourself, the better advocate you are for yourself. Another thing that will help if you're dealing with codependency is finding a CODA group, CODA, joining Codependents Anonymous, and finding even online support for your codependency. You being around people who understand this codependency issue, who understand the root causes of codependency, understand your language. I remember my first CODA meeting, I was shocked because I was in a room full of people who understood my language. It was the first time in my life where I felt like these people understood me. And it was very comforting to know that I was not alone in the world, because when you're codependent, you're very much in your head. You're addicted to relationships and you fear being alone, and you end up catering to other people, and you can become a chameleon. You can become what other people want you to become. And if you have very little self-esteem before, during a codependent relationship, you're going to end up with less because you're not showing up as your authentic self. And all too often, you're manifesting people who unfortunately enjoy you doing for them and not doing for yourself. Very oftentimes, when we have codependency, we also have other addictions. We can have problems with alcohol. We can be addicted to weed. We can be addicted to pornography. We can be addicted to gambling. We could be addicted to food. There's bulimia. There's anorexia. So when it comes to codependency, we have to face this idea that oftentimes codependents are also struggling with other addictions. And again, in order to heal from codependency, we must come out of denial. We have to face our eating disorders. We have to face our addictions to people. We have to face our shopping addictions, our gaming addictions, and whatever else we are using to avoid the anxiety that we have within and the lack of self that we have that causes the anxiety at its core. Learning everything that you can about codependency is huge, and it's a great first step. When I went into psychotherapy and my therapist said, "You're not crazy, but you're codependent, and it's going to take everything you've got to heal it," it was a huge aha moment. It was a breakthrough moment for me, because finally there was a word to help me understand and make sense out of the chaos in my life. And some people don't like labels, but I can tell you that one label completely changed my life. And he told me to go buy the book by Melody Beattie called Codependent No More. And the book helped me change my life. And learning about codependency meant that I had to face the ways in which I was taking on a victim mentality. I felt powerless in my relationships, and I behaved powerless in my relationships. And once I understood why I felt powerless, I began to shift. I had to learn how to take responsibility for how I was showing up in relationships, which meant I had to face myself, I had to face my abandonment trauma, and I had to face the many ways and the many behaviors I participated in that did nothing else but perpetuate the cycle of codependency in my life. Perhaps the most important thing that you can do if you want help for codependency is to start focusing on yourself, is to start pulling back from relationships. For instance, if you seek validation, keep a journal and write down each and every day, sometimes moment by moment, how often you look to get validation and praise from other people, a sense of you're okay. Often codependents live by the motto, well, if you're okay, I'm okay. Whatever you want, I want. Whatever's good for you is good for me, because we lack a sense of self. And when you recognize how often you are in relationships giving your power over, then it becomes clearer to see why you end up in trouble. And I really believe that there's an answer to every problem, but I don't believe that you can solve a problem until you can see the problem. And when you recognize in yourself how often you're seeking validation, seeing that right there in front of you, writing it down in your notebook, really does help you modify your behavior. And so when you're codependent, you have a lot of dysfunctional behaviors that are happening in your life. And only when you're able to see what you're doing wrong can you fix it or can you heal it. So recognizing the behavior in you in which you seek validation and approval is huge. And learning to focus on yourself, ask yourself, what do I want? What do I think? Do I really like basketball or do I hate basketball? Do I really like hot dogs or do I hate hot dogs? You know, what is it about me that I need to bring to the table that is truly authentic? How do I feel about this situation? Another thing that we have to do as codependents is we are very good at taking care of everybody else, but we're not very good at taking care of ourselves. So upping your self-care is huge. So if you make a salad for your partner, make sure you make one for you too. Make sure you sit down and you eat that food with your partner. If you make sure your children take vitamins, make sure that you're taking your vitamins. If you make sure that your children and the people that you love get enough sleep, make sure that you're getting enough sleep. If you are somebody who pushes people to invest in themselves and take care of themselves and go for walks in nature, make sure that you're doing that too. Codependents are famous for telling everybody else what to do. And they have, lots of times they have the right answers, but they never or very rarely apply that wisdom to themselves because they lack a sense of self and they don't feel worthy of it. They feel like their job is to take care of everyone else and make sure that everyone else is okay. And that is a very slippery slope to live on in life because it means you don't matter. And then you attract people who act like you don't matter. The last thing that I would say that people need to learn how to do if you want help for codependency is tell the truth. Tell people how you really feel. But that begins with you telling yourself how you really feel. Learning how to speak up is huge. Learning how to reclaim yourself is huge. And lots of times, let's face it, as a healing codependent, we're not reclaiming the self. We are finding the self. To reclaim something means that you've had it. The self isn't like a piece of luggage. You leave it at the airport, you forget it, and you go back and you go get it the next day. So codependency is about discovering the self. Well, codependency recovery is about discovering the self. Me, I matter. I can say this. I can feel this. I can do this. My mother wanted me to be a lawyer, but I wanted to be a life coach, or my husband wanted me to become a nurse, but I want to become a teacher, or my adult children wanted me to go here on vacation, but I wanted to go here on vacation. I can say that. I can do that. My wife wants me to agree with her on this topic and I don't, and I can stay in my power and I can disagree with her. I'm allowed to do that. Yes, you can. You're allowed to do that. That doesn't mean that the people in your life are going to listen. That doesn't mean that the people in your life are not going to rock the boat. They will. They will. Nobody likes it really when you disagree with them, but healthy people accept it. And healthy people don't punish you because you disagree with them. They don't give you the silent treatment because you disagree with them. And so what you can start doing today is coming out of denial, recognizing that you have an issue, join a support group, go into therapy, find somebody who understands this codependency issue. If you've got CPTSD, that must be dealt with. If you have other addictions, that must be dealt with. If you're suffering from anxiety, that must be dealt with. If you have depression, that must be dealt with. Learn everything that you can about codependency and make sure that you understand that this is essentially an issue that's rooted in a lack of identity. I don't know who I am. And I don't know who I am in most cases because when I was a little child, my home was unpredictable. And to stay safe, I needed to live outside of myself and focus on what was happening outside of me in order to survive. So when I should have been developing a healthy sense of self, when I should have been developing autonomy, I wasn't, because I didn't feel safe and I felt abandoned and I felt rejected. And when I should have been learning life skills on how to relate to myself and to others appropriately, I didn't learn those life skills. I was acquiescing, I was fawning, I was reactive, I was in another addiction, I had an eating disorder or a gambling disorder, and I was not taking care of myself. I was worrying about everybody else but myself. And life goes on, right? Life goes on, then we get married, we have children, and then we are we are in these situations where the stakes have just been, they're just much higher. Now we have responsibility of a home, we have responsibility of a mortgage, we have a responsibility of jobs, responsibility of, sending our kids to school, and life becomes very, very difficult and very heavy. But there is a way out. And now, if you want help for codependency, it's important that you recognize that this is a process. It is not going to happen overnight. And it is a long process. But if you love yourself along the way, and if you get the right support, and if you understand what you're dealing with, and if you are prepared for the potholes in the road that are going to show up, the road to recovery from codependency does not have to be all that difficult, or it can be a lot less difficult than if you were to not use these ideas on the path to health. My name is Lisa Romano. I'm a best-selling author and a life coach, and I specialize in codependent recovery. And if you're interested in learning more about the program that I offer, that really helps people get back in touch with themselves, that really helps them learn the life skills that they missed while they were growing up in these dysfunctional homes, check out the 12-week Breakthrough Coaching Program. And if you're looking for life skills to help you now, check out Codependent Now What? It's Not You, It's Your Programming. It's full of life skills that you can use and can help you today break free from codependency. Namaste, everybody. Until next time, be safe out there. If you love this content, check out the next video. And don't forget to click the link below so you can take the codependency quiz. You met someone, everything was really, really intense. It was like fireworks when you met this person. And before too long, all of a sudden, everything goes flat.